They wouldn't meet a car. You might be unlucky to meet one or two cars. The priest used to have a car.
Yeah.
The guards used to be on bicycles.
Yes.
And that's the way they got around. Yeah.
And then, of course, family and all of that came.
Oh yeah, 1964 we got married. Well, things had changed
64.
at that stage. Yeah.
In what way had things changed?
Well, you had electricity and you had
a car.
A car, yeah.
Right.
So
there was a big change in general comfort then, was there?
There was, yeah.
So
there was a big change.
Life was easier, became
much
easier.
Yeah. Well, you didn't know what it was about.
No, well, I'll tell you now.
We had no washing machine or anything at that time when we got married now. And I often remember when I do tell these lads when they'd be saying, I have to mind my children, I can't do that for you. I used to say, well, I'll tell you now, when you were small, I used to get you to bed, and I might have to go out and stop sheep after that, and then that through.
Yeah.
And feed pet lambs, and run round the field after sheep to see if he catch them. He was trying to get them they were yearning at the time, and he'd have difficulty with one. And then I'd often have to come in and wash a bucket of nappies and put them out.
Yeah.
And it could be 2 o'clock when you'd be going to bed.
Sure, a very short night. Hard work.
Oh yeah, it was all very hard.
You didn't work at all after you got married, did you?
No, I did a bit of private nursing. You know, I remember nursing a woman in Trim, but it'd be only very, on a very small scale.
Yeah.
Because I had children, we had 7 children.
Yeah.
So
that
it wasn't easy until they got on their feet.
Sure.
And then when they got on their feet, there was no such thing as when they come home from school in the evening time, they'd off their clothes and get their dinner and out to the yard to work.
Yeah.
They never went out on the road. And it shows on them now today, you see, they never really were troublesome.
Yeah.
They just had to work. Tussie was ploughing when he was a very small child, wasn't he?
Yeah, good discipline and
We used to just have to do it.
Yeah, didn't hurt them one bit.
Didn't do them very hard, no.
And that your life probably didn't change that much, did it, Tom?
It didn't, no, it didn't change that much. This was the kitchen that time. And up there, that room, up there, the kitchen now, was a dairy, you had a big crop of milk and you strained it in there and it was skimmed and butter made.
Yeah, that was the thing we used to have to do too. And the night time when the kids would go to bed, I used to have to churn maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But there was a big
I made butter up to recently.
Did you?
Yeah, in the last, would it be 7 or 8 years finished, maybe more.
Yeah, that's more.
10.
Yeah.
Would it be 10? I don't think it is.
But there was the fireplace on the hearth, a big fire on the hearth there. And there was what was known as a crane. Did you ever hear of them? A crane.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
It was like a small gate. And it was hung in with a big steel hook into the wall.
Yeah.
Over that was a lot wider, isn't it, there?
Yeah.
And the pig's pot was hung on that.
Oh, I see, yeah.
And it was pushed in over the fire.
Yeah.
Then you could swing it out round.
Right, I know.
About there.
I know what you're saying, yeah.
And it'd be put over there under that window and rolled oats or whatever you were going to mix with it, put into it and chop it up there and feed the pigs that follow the day with it.
Yeah, I know.
You know.
Right. And what, that'd have to be boiled and...
Oh, it had to be boiled there, yeah.
Right.
No, I didn't do any of that. It was arranged there when I came.
Yeah, we put in an old range there and they changed more or less to the...
You were spoiled.
Oh yeah, yeah. I hadn't that anyway.
But even though they were hard times in a sense, they were so much probably easier than your parents' days.
Oh yeah, they were, yeah.
You had some mod cons, you had some labour saving.
I remember my mother now at home, and she used to have a big galvanised what you used to call it, a bath.
Yeah.
And a washboard. Did you ever see a washboard?
Yeah.
And this glass, and she'd be scrubbing the clothes on it. Yeah. Well, at least, I don't remember now having a washboard. I had a
Well, it was a
one for
washboard here
a
anyway.
very short space of time.
Yeah. Right.
And then you got a sort of a boiler, sort of a yoke. And then we gradually gone to the twin tub washing machine.
Right.
And you had to lift them out and into another yoke. It's different now. I used to be telling these that to Louise when she come up and she'd be saying, oh, I'm exhausted, I had to wash them. I said, how did you wash them? Put them into the washing machine. And I used to be telling her, you see, you know, you'd be laughing.
Don't have a lucky they are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Honeymoon, what
Oh, we toured Ireland on our honeymoon.
did you really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
He brought the car. We started off in Carlow, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And down around Kilkenny and across south and up by
Crossed
Sligo.
down by
We were in
Cork.
Donegal. Do you remember we were in
Up through
Donegal?
Sligo, yeah.
There was a patient up in Donegal and I had told him that he knew I was getting married. He had his arm amputated.
And you treated them before that,
Yeah,
did you?
I had him, yeah. I remember the one evening, I was writing the report, I was just going off duty, and he run in and he says, President Kennedy, in a real Donegal accent, he says, President Kennedy is after being shot. And he had come to Dublin the previous couple of months, you see, in June, we were all excitement and out looking at him, and he said, I said, you couldn't be telling me the truth. And sure, the whole thing was, you know, but I remember him well that time.
So that's the year 63 you got married?
No, 64 was the following year. He was killed in 1963.
Yeah.
And it was 64 we got married.
Oh, I see, sorry, yeah.
Yeah. But I remember we went up to Donegal to meet him. He said, you'll have to come to Donegal.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah,
Patient,
yeah.
So that was a very memorable
Oh,
experience,
yeah,
that
yeah.
trip,
Oh,
yeah, yeah. And what about travel after that, in the years after
We
that?
didn't do any much now. We just all local travelling. We never went abroad. Well, we went to England. He had a brother in England. And I went over there once or twice.
Whereabouts?
In London, North London. He only died there, he's 9 years dead now. 9 years dead there recently. In the 11th of August.
Right.
But they used to come over here very often. They'd come, they had a house in Preference. And they used to come very often over, and they had 3 children too, much the same ages as ours. And they'd pal around and be together and that.
Right, right.
But apart from that now, we just go for odd days. We used to go to the sea on a Sunday, in the summertime.
So you never
Bring
had
all the children, you see.
you never had a travel bug as such?
No.
But you're living a type of an idyllic life anyway, and for as many people would see
I
it.
went to Lures, and
Yeah.
that's about it.
Very memorable, all of it, yeah.
Oh yeah, it was, yeah.
Mm.
So you had to sort of economise, I suppose, if you like, or whatever. You just had to do what you... This man never believed in, he wouldn't let you borrow anything, you know, you just, whatever you had it, and that was when you paid for it, and that was it.
Good principle.
Yeah. If you hadn't the money for it, you did without it.
Yeah. Well, that was how many people saw it. I mean,
yeah. See, they got married and they had one car and they had no, you know, you were lucky to have light and a bit of a cooker to cook.
Yeah.
And that kind of thing.
Well, I'd always say to a young man now that we, you know, want to travel or that and had a love of travelling, to do one tour at least, you know, which I did myself, like, and I found it very helpful, like, you know, you said about what would I think of something. Now, the Eiffel Tower is one of the things. Another thing was...
you did that trip, did you?
Yeah, he did
Yeah.
a trip
Right.
to Rome in 1950, wasn't it?
Yeah, around that, yeah.
Right.
And we saw the Salesian College over there. And I had witnessed the sandstorm.
You went to Rome, didn't you?
You witnessed what, sorry?
A sandstorm,
Really?
yeah. We were brought down into this Salesian College yard, and people started running. They were used to this, and to get to a building to get in out of it. And sure, by the time we got up to it, our few lads, we were fed up running anyway. But this storm, the sand now would just cut your face really, it was coming with such force.
Did you go as a group of?
Yeah, there was a group, a few people.
Fellow farmers, was it?
No.
Just.
See, was there there wasn't a farmer on it at all.
All right, okay. And what triggered it? Was there some sort of an excursion or a pilgrimage? Or?
It was more or less a pilgrimage. I think we did Rome on the way or on the way back or
It was the
something.
Holy Year, wasn't it?
Yeah.
1950.
And how did you travel? Did you fly to Rome or?
No, it was all over land.
So you got the ferry
Yeah, the ferry and the boat.
from Rosslare
Yeah.
and busted down then through France into
That's right.
Okay.
Well, train mainly.
train.
I remember well now we going through this. It was most of the people in the carriage I was in were asleep, and the train suddenly came to a stop. Like gradually, the speed was being cut down, and it was the purpose of that was to let the flying Scotchman go by.
All right.
You wouldn't be allowed to cross that line
Right.
until it was gone.
Right.
And you had the benefit of seeing this thing going in the night speed. Then it was some speed down along this, and that. But it's not that, but like I said to you now, the Pisa, the Leaning Tower is one thing, and
You saw that, did
they
you?
stopped the train and all, for we could see that and have a good look at it.
Right.
And people's reading about it now, that they might read about it and tell you a bit about it, and you could always say, I saw that,
Yeah.
I remember one of the things I saw was old concrete piers of gates and that around, and they were all lying, all going off.
Excuse
Whether
me,
it was soft ground under them or what it was, now I don't know.
In that same area.
Yeah, and around not far away from it.
Right. Right.
We come on further back into France then, and I saw men ploughing. Well, only one set of them now, with cattle pulling the plough.
Really? Yeah. Right.
They took fright from the plane or from the train and ran away with the plough now.
Oh, right.
Yeah,
And again, that was before you got married.
that was before I got married. Yeah.
Roughly 1960 or some time then.
50, it'd be in the 50s.
In the
The
50s.
early, probably 1950 itself, yeah.
Was it? Okay.
Mm.
Right. And would that have been a religious? Did a priest get that trip together, or?
Well, I don't think there was a priest on it now. There might have been a few priests on it, a few Salesian priests
Right.
on it, all right.
So you got to see St. Peter's and
Yeah, and you got to see a few things like that. One thing we didn't get up on, we got over towards it, was when we were in Paris, the Eiffel Tower. I was very anxious to climb it. To say there's a wonderful view of it, like you can see all Paris from it and all that sort of thing. But there was thunderstorms.
oh,
It was closed up for the day.
right. How long did you spend in Paris then?
Oh, we didn't spend too long anywhere. We did a night, I think, in Paris, or 2 nights maybe in Paris. And we did a night in Rome. It was a shocking night. The night in Rome, there was a thunderstorm. Came and they had to stack the planes back out. They were flying around all the night.
Couldn't
Trying
land.
to burn off fuel or trying to get to land or whatever.
Right.
Although it was very interesting, but I wouldn't be gone on that long travel again,
Yeah.
But I would say to somebody, try and do it once, and you have to say you saw a lot of this.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. And get it out of your system type of
A
thing.
brother of mine now, he was in the same, more or less the same boat. And one thing he wanted to see was Niagara Falls. And he did go to see it and saw it.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. You hadn't a hankering to go there. You hadn't.
No, I know.
You did as much as you wanted
Wish
to
to
do.
go there.
Mm.
And Justin now, as he stands now, he could be sent to Rome tomorrow morning. They don't give you very much time. Mighty travelling.
Right.
What country did Justin get his first commitment to? From small state.
Oh, to Slovenia.
Yeah.
There, yeah.
They just throw up this thing here then the day or a couple of days beforehand.
He does a lot of travelling.
Such a morning, in the morning, 9 o'clock, be at the airport.
Right.
Oh, he enjoys travelling, he doesn't mind it.
Huh?
Justin, he doesn't mind it though.
Well, he doesn't know, he can't help it now, just the way. He did veterinary, and he spent how many years?
Well, he went to Northern Ireland first. In 2004 he qualified.
Aye.
And he was in Northern Ireland for 3 years. He enjoyed it, he said it was lovely up there. In fact, he's still in contact with a lot of the people, like he went up and down a few times after leaving it. And then a job came available in Farley's, and he went there for 7 years.
Oh.
And he ended up then in the department.
It's obviously happy there.
Oh, he's very happy.
Of course.
Yeah.
Going back a little bit, or maybe a long way, obviously there were hard times for everyone, but there were particularly hard times for some people, clearly not your two families, but you probably remember others in a state of poverty and really difficult times.
Yeah.
What are your memories of that when you were growing up?
Oh, when we were growing up, I haven't much now. You wouldn't be travelling much. At that
No, but
time.
even your locality where you were.
Yeah.
Well, a good deal of that came from drink.
Is that right?
Yeah, I think,
I wouldn't have much memories now.
there wouldn't be a few now that, suffered a bit from drink.
So
Like, I do remember you'd have to share your clothes. Like my mother used to gather up clothes and she said, we'll have to give them, you have enough of clothes. Your aunt would come from America, I had an aunt in America and she'd send you stuff and she'd say, we'll share them.
Yeah.
They used to do that kind of thing.
Sure. And there'd be families that'd be worse off than you type of thing.
Exactly, yeah.
But you don't remember any really hard cases or
No,
really difficult?
not really, no.
Mm.
I remember now, like as ours grew up, our children here, there was people down the road and you'd share in bad weather now. Do you remember that they couldn't get out at all?
Ah, yeah. Well,
Ours would go down with food to them and that kind of thing, but it was only just... I haven't much memories now of real poverty,
No. And perhaps Meath isn't the worst county to live in,
Probably,
in that regard.
No.
Yeah.
No, you get that real severe poverty around towns and that, I think
You
is...
see, there weren't drugs or anything around at that time.
Mm.
Like when you see it now, it's such a dangerous world.
Yeah.
Yeah, you see, you wouldn't walk to school now. You wouldn't. You'd be afraid to let out children walking. You couldn't let them out, sure. And but there was no remarks past that time.
No.
Everyone was walking.
Mm. And I think your profession in some cities now is particularly, if you like, vulnerable.
Oh yeah, very much so. Yeah, the drugs you see have the whole place to start.
Whereas in your day,
No, there was nothing like that at all. No, there were, once you had a uniform on you, had the height of respect.
A great level of respect.
Yeah.
And somehow that, well, perhaps it's just to do with drugs.
Oh yeah.
That's gone.
Like I remember now on Corpus Christi in Dublin, the nurses used to always take part in outdoor, and you march in your uniforms.
Yeah.
And you go into very, dense areas of poverty, really, I suppose. And they'd have the height to be out with flowers and everything.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's as it should be. I mean, particularly for the nursing profession who are
Yeah.
there to help people. It's
yeah.
absurd when you'd hear
Yeah.
stories about, you know,
Yeah.
drunks or
It's different now. Very
It's
much
different now.
different, yeah.
just the local big houses. The any stories connected with, you know, some of the major, if you like, landlords that were local. Do you know anything either in the Rathline area?
I don't really know.
No.
Well, we were at a funeral yesterday over here in the Coltram House, Lady Mount Charles. You know, and there was she used to give children's parties and that sort of thing, you know, at a certain time of the year. There and that. And, Nancy was just telling me that Tossie, that's a son, went to do some job in it. But there was a big gap under a window somewhere. And he passed comment to her like that she could a bit of a board or something like that.
No, he said, I'd replace that, he said, with PCV or something. He said, at least he said you'd be warm. And she said, no, I can't do that. She said, there's a preservation on this house. Preservation order.
Yeah.
She could only do what she was told she could do. Yeah.
She'd
She'd have to replace the window exactly as it was,
Yeah.
and it cost a fortune.
My God.
Yeah.
So she had to just allow it to decay.
Yeah. They say like it's in poor condition. I don't know, no. But we were in at one time. She did a fundraiser. She was a very charitable kind of a person.
Right.
And she was fundraising to replace the roof on the Protestant church, the nearby church there in Galton. And I got a tour around it. This woman says to me, would you like to see the house? And I said, oh yeah, I'd love to see it. And she brought us around the rooms. And it was the naked eye that night, it was lovely. Everything was all
Furnishings and so forth.
Oh yeah, and there was a library in it now, and you just looked up at to find the ceiling. With
And very high ceiling.
Very
in it.
high,
Yeah.
Beautiful house now.
Really, yeah.
To my mind at that time anyway, it was beautiful.
Yeah.
But Tossie now was in it, and he said like that there's a lot of repairs to be done on it.
Yeah.
You know, probably, I don't know what's going to happen now, whether it'll be sold or there's nobody in it.
Right.
You know, there's security on it just at the moment.
Yeah. Oh, really? Is that right?
Yeah, well, there's lights on there. Somebody said there was lights on it last night.
And there's nobody living in it now?
No. She died in the nursing home in Trim there in the Knightsbridge. But she had round the care assistants, I think it was Bluebird or some of those nursing home people were looking after her for a while. She was in her 93rd year.
Oh, that's right.
But I was just reading, there was a patch, she went through a fair deal too. Like it wasn't all ladies like ways with her. She grew up in wartime, and she went off nursing to England. She only lived across the river from Slane Castle, who she married afterwards, the Marquis of Slane.
Yeah.
And she had to go nursing to England, she said, during the war years. And then she was into some kind of cooking or something in the war camps. And she ended up in Berlin, you know,
After the war, is
after the war, and then she came back here and she married this Marquis of Slane.
it? Right. Right.
Yeah.
Wow.
So she had it tough enough too in her young days.
Yeah. And yet probably an exciting time in another way.
She had great love for horses, and she got going then at the horses and dogs when she came home.
Right.
Yeah, she had her hunting horse. She used to do a bit of hunting there with me.
Right. And that's the only sort of major house in the area type
But
of thing.
that was the only one. Would you call it where, you know where Andrews was down below? He was an English fella too. Wasn't a big house, was it?
What?
Do you know where Andrews was? Who owned that? There was then there was Galtram. That was Galtram House that Lady Mount Charles lived in, and then there was Galtram Lodge.
That's right.
And Sandy Shaw. Who was living in that place first? When you remember?
Barry's.
Barry's.
Yeah.
Right.
Bob Barry.
And In what way? There are other Barrys
But
locally
they'd
in
be
the
related, wouldn't it, Tom, them
And
Barrys?
the wood, yeah.
Yeah.
But I remember going over,
There was
being
a
sent
fella
over
in it.
to that Bob Barry's. And I turned in off the road. And now I thought it was breathtaking, the beauty of the place.
right.
You know, it's that springtime of year, everything was bare, and there was daffodils on both sides of the avenue in. And they were perfect now.
Right.
But there was an old fella then living in it. Remember the lad that,
Yeah, what he
what was
was,
his name? Major what?
Major McVeigh.
Oh, McVeigh, yeah.
Yeah.
In my time. And
Right.
there was a next door neighbour, a man used to be looking after him.
Right.
And he died and it was sold then. And who bought it? Only Sandy Shaw. She was after winning the Eurovision Song Contest for England. Do you remember her?
Yes, I do. Yeah.
Yeah, but that's where she lived.
Yes.
And she came with her husband over there who was, he was Jeff Banks was his name.
Right.
And they had one daughter called Sandy Banks, wasn't Sandy
Yeah,
Banks.
what her name now was.
She was going to school anyway in Kiltale with ours,
Right.
the
Right.
young one. She wasn't Sandy now, because the mother was Sandy Shaw, and she was, whatever her name was anyway. But she left and it was sold, and sure, it's derelict now, nobody in it.
No. That was Major McVeigh and Commandant Dunn. Would you have heard of him?
Oh, I did, yeah.
He was up in
Guinness
where
Park he was in.
Yeah.
there was another Barry living up there. Brother, I think, of the man.
Did you know Commandant Dunn?
Well, no, only the name. You know.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
He'd only one son, and he was going to be the heir to the throne, to the whole big estate up there.
Oh yes. Okay.
And he said, "I'm not interested." He said, "I'm joining the church. I'm going to be a Jesuit."
Right. That was a
And he
change.
went off and joined the Jesuits. I
Right.
don't know, is he alive or dead now, that man? Tom, do you know the priest?
Yeah. I just don't know what.
He
Where
was a
he
very
was.
nice man, Commandant Dunn and Mrs. Dunn.
Right, you knew them.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
Yeah, well, how we knew them was he was in the IFA with remember
Yeah.
that he used
That's
to call
right. He
here.
that started it
Yeah,
around here.
And what time of what year roughly did he leave that park, that house?
Now,
Did he sell it to Schaefer then? The Schaefer's the German family that bought it?
the man that's
It was,
did the road works. Yeah.
oh no, well he was a long time after that. He was, you know, he lived in there, he went in Summerhill,
Yeah.
what's his name was? Oh, he's a brother living up there still.
Where roughly do you mean?
In Summerhill, in where Langford's was.
Right, well that's Fallon's.
Oh, Fallon, that was his name, Tom.
Yeah,
But
that's
there was a
right.
lad in it before that, Morris, was it?
Yes, but I think he might have been caretaking it for the
Right.
Schaefer family.
Oh, right, yeah. Maybe
Right,
that
but
was it.
Commandant Dunn was before that.
Yeah.
And in what way, what's your memories or your experience of Commandant Dunn? Because
Well, the only, I wouldn't have known him now at all, only through Tom. He came here a few times through IFA.
yeah,
And he told us that time that he'd only have one son, as far as I remember, the priest.
Yeah, that's what I think he was an only son.
Yeah. And
That's
he
how
said,
it-
he's after telling me he's going to be a Jesuit. And he said, we work, he says, that's...
and was Commandant Dunn a Catholic?
Oh yes,
He
he
was.
was, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And you don't know where he served, or he was
No, I
British
didn't
Army,
know,
presumably?
I wouldn't know anything. Would you know anything about
I
him?
never heard any more about him at all.
No.
Once Commandant Dunn went over there, and there was no more about him.
He didn't die here, did he? He left.
Oh, he did, no, he died up there, didn't
Yeah.
he?
Oh, did he? Right.
I think he did,
Yeah,
yeah.
I'm sure he died up there.
Oh, where would he be buried, I wonder?
I don't know,
Mm.
would he be buried in Dangan?
Yeah,
I don't really know, no. Like, I'd say he was buried in Dangan, I
Right.
found out now.
right, right. Right.
But I wouldn't remember, but I know, I'd say he died up there, surely.
Tell me any major incident. You mentioned earlier about President Kennedy's death, for example.
Yeah.
Was there any other major thing that you can remember in your life?
Well, I remember MacArthur's.
Oh yes.
Do you remember Malcolm?
Yeah.
I cycled to school with him.
Did you?
Yeah.
Right.
I tell you now, he was much younger than I
So you're
was.
famous for that reason.
Well, I don't think I was. But they used to, we come to Larracar, you had a brother coming too, on a bicycle, Tom Holmes.
Yes, yes.
He used to go, and Seamus Hughes,
Right.
and we'd meet at Larracar.
That's the same generation, roughly.
Yeah, they'd be all cycling at that time.
Right.
I remember Seamus Hughes well, and Tom Holmes. And this woman used to be on a bicycle as well. There was no cars that time. They had no cars either, MacArthur's. And this young lad on the back of it, and she had a chair made on the back. Did you ever see those old bicycles, the high Nellies?
Yes.
With a chair made on it.
Right.
You'd have to get them man-made.
To carry a child.
To carry a child, yeah. And there was little steps and all for putting their feet on it. And that's how Malcolm MacArthur was brought to school. And we'd meet her at Larracar, and she used to have this cigarette in her mouth, and she'd have it at the side of her mouth, and she'd cycling along, and Malcolm.
Right. I wonder if the period was, of course, some of them, like Tom and that, they're probably a bit older than you. You were probably at first year and they might have been leaving or something like that. Would that be it? And Malcolm would have been younger as well.
Oh, Malcolm was much younger, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, he was younger. Malcolm MacArthur would be in his 60s now, though.
Oh yes.
And well in
Oh no, he'd be
maybe
very
70.
close. He'd be 70.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He
He'd be
would,
70.
yeah.
He'd be 70. Yeah.
Oh, he would, yeah. Oh, I remember him well. Yeah, he was going, and then Gargan's. Do you know where Tony Gargan lived
Yes.
up there?
Mm.
Well, the Gargans had got it. That was the first sort of a little station wagon kind of a thing
Right.
that they had.
Right.
And Mr. Gargan, I don't know what his Christian name was. Did you remember what his Christian name was? Gargan. They had two children. Tony was the daughter, and what was the man's name? He used to go near Gargan. David.
Right.
David Gargan. He's living up in Lucan or Palmerstown, up that side someplace.
Right.
And they had a car, and they used to bring Malcolm MacArthur down at that stage.
Right.
Yeah.
That incident with him was just extraordinary for
It was.
anyone that knew him, of course.
Yeah,
The whole country.
But like his background was very poor, really. His family background was very bad. Like the father and mother had separated, and frankly, I wouldn't say either of them had much time for him. Like they had their own ways of going on. And this Mrs. McCann, what was her name? Katie McCann.
Yeah.
Used to look after him.
Right. Where does she live now?
Well, sure, she's long dead. She lived at Homerstown. When you'd be coming down, if you were coming from Trim, say, you know the road into Freffens?
Yes.
And then there's a road to the right.
Homerstown Boring.
But she lived in there.
Right.
She lived very close to MacArthur's.
Right.
And she worked in it.
Right.
And, but I remember that well. And then he left, and you know the way I left, and I hadn't seen him for years. Until only when I had the radio on and he appeared on the radio.
Yeah.
I couldn't believe it.
But in a manner of speaking, whereas, he'd probably had a difficult childhood.
He had a very difficult childhood, yeah.
But they were brought up expecting more. He saw himself as something of a toff, I think, and he didn't feel that he'd ever have to work.
I suppose, yeah. And then the money ran out.
Yeah. So his
mother had she had a great upbringing, and whatever happened to her, like she was over from Rathmalline. She was from Tandragee. Did you ever hear of Tandragee?
Yes, I do. Not.
Yeah, it's near Ardenu, so it's over that side.
Yeah.
And she had a very good parents, like they were just real staunch Catholics.
And
there was the pillar
quite wealthy
in
as well.
Kill. They used to look after the church financially and everything. They had a big estate.
Yeah.
That it's all divided now. Immigrants came up from Galway, or not Galway. I think the mostly Mayo people are over that side. But she had a very high upbringing, a very good upbringing, and she'd only one sister. And I remember the sister died. She was only in her very early 20s. Now I'd say somebody said at the time that she got meningitis, but at that time you wouldn't really know what she died from, but she died anyway. And Irene was the Mrs. MacArthur. She was the only one, and she was supposed to own everything then.
Right.
And she met in with this Mr. MacArthur, and that was the end of her.
His circumstances weren't as good.
Well, I'd say they were if she made a go of it, but she wasn't able to cope with it.
Right. A very important. Do you have
They
any?
were very different people.
The two people. Yeah.
I'd say
He
Danny
was
MacArthur.
Scottish, I think, was he? I think.
I don't know, but I remember you couldn't sit in their seat in the church in Bankin. They had kneelers and down on the right hand side, and Catholics were funny kind of people. The church was funny, wasn't it?
Well,
that was the same in every church, I think.
Yeah. I wouldn't tell ours now because I'd be afraid that you'd be souring the Catholic Church.
Yeah.
But you couldn't get into their seat, and you could be standing above them banging and killed too. There was people, Mrs. Murray and her parents, they had a special seat in Kill, and kneelers and everything, yeah. And if there'd be a big ceremony on, the church was small. You'd have to stand, you could do what you like, but you wouldn't be going into their seat.
Is there any particular event in outside of family affairs in your life, Tom, that really rings a bell, something major that happened?
Well, when you're gone, I probably think, that's what I got up to, because I had an old book with, there was a good picture of the pony and trap, for instance.
Yes.
And I'll give you an idea like how we used to travel at the time.
Of course, yeah.
I just don't see it there now, whether John took it or not.
Wouldn't you your pictures like that and that?
Well, there's a fairly old one there at the start, but it'll be no good to us here now, Larry Byrne, there's Larry.
Oh, yeah.
And that was Bill's grave in Kiltane. The house, but they wouldn't be any. No, this was the pony and trap one.
Yeah.
There was a couple of
If
pictures.
John was here, he might have it.
Yeah. And do you know the one now, the IFM, and there was a couple of fellas, I think there was a man from Summer Hill in that. Do you remember I telling you about a man that the car rolled in on up there?
Yes.
What's this? Do you remember his name? Up above him. He won the side mowing competition.
Oh, yeah. He wasn't Kenny, no.
No.
He lived on the right hand side as you left Summerhill. The roundabout wasn't there at the time. You went up the hill and McGardle's. Do you know McGardle's house? Well, the house after that, what was their names?
Well, there was Nichols.
No.
There was Mulvey's.
No.
McGardle's. There wasn't any other house after McGardle's. Sorry, the after Nichols was Melia's, Lodger Melia was.
Yeah, no.
No, I'm not sure. Coincidentally, if that is where that incident happened that you're talking about, Jerry Nicholl was killed in the way that you describe. A truck pressed him against the gate, and he.
That must have been him, so.
Yeah, well then these people that bought the place.
Kearns.
Kearns. That's his name.
That's his name.
Yeah.
But it was Jerry Nicholl that was killed. He was there before that.
Kearns was this man's name.
Yeah, that man is dead now.
Yeah, he died. He used to win. He won this mowing competition.
Oh, really?
The scythe mowing.
All right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Are they living up there still?
Kearns have left. He
sold that.
He died and the.
She went to live with her daughter in Dunboyne. She couldn't stay in the house on her own.
Yeah.
Remember they came down here to say hello to you one time.
That's right, yeah.
Well, you've done really well, and I appreciate this opportunity to talk to you.
That's it
Both.
now.
No, it's really terrific. And can I just finally, there are some wonderful things about the past that you wouldn't want to change. What are they? What would you like to see it remain about the past, or that's changed, that you've lost? Whatever it might be. Maybe it's the business of respect that there used to be,
Well, respect
or whatever
for
it
the
is.
church and the priests. There's very poor respect for the church, I think, now. You know,
Well, I
that
should-
time everybody knelt down in the night time. You wouldn't go to bed without saying the rosary. And the rosary was the thing at the time. And everyone knew how to say it and everything. Like, you'd be embarrassed now sometimes. Some of the kids wouldn't be able to answer the Hail Mary at a funeral.
Yeah.
And we said the rosary here every night now. But I doubt, like, I don't know, like, all the children used to kneel down. They all had a decade. One had the first and the second, and they all had a special decade of the rosary. But I don't know, I don't even ask them, because, you know, you wouldn't like to.
But I shouldn't have mentioned that as a subject. But is there anything in your past that you like that? Is there anything else that you regret that has changed?
I do regret, like, that the rosary is a dying prayer, you know.
Okay.
I do regret that no matter what you do and say, and drink then. There's, like, we're both pioneers. I never drank in my life, neither did he. He cycled to Dublin for his confirmation pledge,
Good man.
for his pioneer pin.
Good man.
Yeah.
Cycled all the way up to
So you have probably a gold pin at this
Street.
stage, have you?
Huh?
You probably have a gold pin at this
Oh,
stage.
I have,
yes,
yeah.
so have I. I
Yeah.
need a gold pin too. But at least I got mine down in Kiltale Church. He had to get on a bicycle and go up to Dublin to get it. And he said, I got it so hard to get the pin and I'm going to keep it.
He earned it
And
already.
lost.
Yes.
But there's nobody now, like, there's very few pioneers now. I used to do pioneer meetings.
There's a lot more than you think, though, all the
Well, I
same.
don't
Yeah.
know. I don't think so, no.
What about you, Tom? Is there any particular thing that you regret that has changed from your youth?
No, well, there's really not. No, it's.
I think
Yes.
television did away with family life in a big way, you know.
It did. And the motor car,
Like, you'd be glued now to the television. I do church, a bit of church collections. And you go, it's only a once a year thing, and you call the houses and say, shh, we're looking at such a thing. You know, give her whatever she's looking for and let her go because we're looking at this.
yeah.
You know.
The mobile phone, I'm sure, is another thing.
The mobile phone, yeah. Well, that's a desperate yoke altogether.
Well, they're a terrific
Well,
invention, but, we did without them, I suppose, for a long time. But I remember taking a weakness
I'm
one
going
day.
up to make a cup of tea. I need to be talking
Yeah.
there.
Yeah.
Well, we'll finish up now. And
Right.
sorry, just finish. Sorry,
Yeah.
finish your story there, Tom.
I put up my hand like that to open a door, and the next thing was I was on the floor. You know, whatever kind of way
You've got a weakness.
And I still had my mind with me and all. And I said, well, if I get up again and fall again, I'd be worse. And I rooted till I got down mobile. And I put, I knew John was in the area somewhere. And I just put hen house in it. It was nice and clean. I had washed it out a couple of days before that. And in that case,
Yeah.
it was, he came and, well, all he had to do was witness me. Nope, that's all I wanted him to do.
Sure.
But youngsters nowadays, they're at this phone, like, from the age that they're hardly able to walk, talk.
And am I right in thinking it affects the communication, the ordinary speech between?
It does, yes.
The television is the ruination of a lot of houses, I think.
No time for talk.
And the motor
No time for
car,
talk, no.
the motor car, you meet somebody that you know and that's all.
Yeah.
There's no.
No
When
chat.
buy an old bicycle, you put your foot down on the ground. Maybe spend 5 minutes
Yeah.
talking, you know.
Of course. Yeah.
I
You
know. I
hardly
want,
know your next door neighbour now, so you know.
True.
one thing I do
You know,
remember, there was
that
people.
kind of life is gone.
There was people down there called Sweeney's, and they were very good Catholics and all that, and went to mass and everything and that. But over here, then there was a house, and there was an old lady living in it called Maggie O'Hara. Who was in it before that? The woman that was in it before Maggie
Oh,
O'Hara.
I don't know, maybe
But anyway, she died. And this Pat Sweeney cycled on his way home. He was going down. Now, there was no road down there at the time, that way, where you go out on when you're going. But the road went straight down towards Jack Quinn's.
Oh,
Do you know what I'm talking
Yes.
about now?
the road ended here,
And
down here.
he turned in on this our lane and cycled the whole way up here. And he stopped at the back door out there, and it just happened out there. I was around and I opened the door. He shouted in the door, "Mary Ann, give in the gun." Mary Ann O'Hara was her name. Yeah, Mary Ann, give in the gun. It was the first time I ever heard the expression.
right.
But that's the way, that wouldn't be heard of. Like, you know, like you were talking about Mrs. Wiggleworth and Lady Mount Charles, and she only heard it
On Thursday.
Thursday morning.
Yeah, and she was dead from Sunday.
And she was dead from the previous Sunday, you know. But
With all the phones and all the
yeah.
ways of communicating. Well, look, that's absolutely fabulous. Thank you very much, both of you.
I'm going to have a quick cup of tea for you anyway.
Oh my God. Well, look, on behalf of myself and future generations, much appreciated. Thank you very much.
All right, good.
Yeah.